Chapter 133 to 134. Kumogakure was quite busy this time of the year. It was the harvest season and that, for a mountain village like Kumo, meant their ninjas run back and forth between bodyguarding, bandit extermination, and supply delivering missions for farmers and various traders going and coming to sell their crops. It didn't help the situation that the rakeage left some days prior to the peace treaty. While the ninjas were grumbling about signing such a worthless piece of paper that eventually meant nothing, the civilians were quite happy. Alas, it was happiness brought by ignorance. Not that the ninjas would enlighten the civilians about it. If anything, the rakeage wanted nothing more than to storm Kirigakure in revenge for the death of his beloved. To kill every single man and woman from Kiri, who was part of the Nagori Isles invasion. To kill Ringo Amuri, who was the commander. His rage was legendary after that mission. He single-handedly reduced an entire mountain to rubble and cemented the public opinion on his position as the third rakeage successor. What many didn't know, however, he was also afraid. Afraid of Rei of Kiri, the monster that manhandled him and Killer Bee as if they were children. Mei, wearing a straw hat and a bit battered old-looking civilian clothes, merrily strolled through the gate to Kumo, not even being stopped by the guards, since she was just one of the numerous children of farmers coming and going to help their parents to sell the crops. As long as they couldn't feel chakra from her, everything was just peachy. Just like that, Mei infiltrated Kumogakure. Through the front gate, inwardly snickering that Rei's chakra hiding technique, and some old clothes were all she needed to get in. But really, the Kumogakure is incredibly beautiful. Mei looked up the houses built either on the tops or on the sides of the mountain and the bridges connecting them. It was an ethereal sight, and she really believed no other village could surpass Kumo when it came to the natural beauty of the place. Not really it has anything on Rei's dimension, though. Mei scoffed and turned to enter a side alley. Apparently, that was not such a bright idea since the second she was far enough. 5 thugs who obviously followed her into the alley blocked her path. They were about to open their lustfully grinning mouths, but Mei couldn't really be bothered. 5 kunais and 5 thuds later, she was again on her way, deeper into the alley. When she decided she was sufficiently out of sight and nobody followed her. Boil release, steam clone jutsu. The air thickened until a small amount of smoke soundlessly burst out, not unlike when someone creates a shadow clone, but unlike shadow clones, this smoke didn't reveal a body, rather it gathered into a smoke-like figure of Mei. Here, Mei handed each clone a pouch with a set of 100 spying seals, which the clones quickly absorbed into themselves, causing it to sink into the smoke. Put this all over the village, especially in restricted areas. Mei ordered and the 5 figures vanished as if dissipating. Huh, who said I can't be subtle? Take that, Conan. Mei smirked, remembering Conan's distraught expression when she showed the woman this sneaky use of her steam clones. They can dissipate into the air, becoming wisps of barely noticeable chakra, and get wherever they want, capable of squeezing themselves even through the smallest of crevices. The only thing capable of showing them were incredibly strong seals, which meant Mei's clones were much, much better than Conan's when it came to sneaking around. Needless to say, Conan's eyebrow twitched for days on end, much to Mei's delight, when that little tidbit became clear. And then, much to Mei's displeasure, Conan came with the marvelous idea of, let Mei take care of the spy network. And just like that, the tables turned and now it was Mei who was perpetually scowling and Conan, who was smirking like a loon at her suffering. After all, Mei hated sneaking around. Melting something? Easy. Bathing enemies in lava? Sure. Drowning somebody? Fun. But sneaking around? Nua. Having hundreds of clones sit around in a room, shifting through the material on spying? Bleh. Maintaining a spy network? No. Freaking. Way. Fortunately or unfortunately, Rei intervened, and Conan stayed in charge of the spy network, while Mei became the person who was tasked to spread the spying seals. Not that it lessened the playfully condescending smirks of Conan, that threw into Mei's face that insufferable message of, I am still more useful to Rei. Conan liked to subtly portray. Despite everything, Mei could only wistfully smile, as she really couldn't imagine her life without these small rivalries between herself and her sisters. Hours passed quickly, while Mei toured the civilian-accessible parts of Kumogakure, trying out the local cuisine, getting to know some people, and just eavesdropping to get some information while she waited for her steam clones to be finished. Finally, 3 hours later, all 500 spying seals were installed, no one from Kumo the wiser. And now, the last part of my mission. Mei nodded to herself and used a self-withdrawing seal her clone put near her target. Yujito Ni was a 12-year-old and already a ninja of Kumo for 2 years. She was not like Uncle B despite knowing they were the same. He was a hero while she was mocked. He was the right-hand man of the rakeage while she... Her throat hitched as she remembered her unpleasant memories, and the slashes of her sword became faster, more ferocious, scarring the poor wooden dummy on the empty training ground far away from the village. She wanted to run. Slash. She wanted to prove herself being useful. Slash. She wanted to gain respect. Slash. She wanted to be treated normally. Slash. She wanted to get stronger. Slash. She wanted her suffering to stop. Slash. She wanted many things, but that was when an amused snort woke her from her anger-induced rampage. You really love slashing things up, don't you? You would get along well with our resident sword loon. A feminine voice alerted Yujito to the presence of somebody unknown to her. Her body instantly tensed as she quickly turned around only to blink when she spotted a bit older auburn-haired girl in civilian clothes. Worse yet, the girl didn't seem like a ninja. Her posture was far too relaxed and lazy. She didn't give off that tense feeling other ninjas do. She was a perfect picture of a harmless civilian. Who are you, and how did you get here? This place is off limits. Yujito evenly warned only to get a pointed and piercing look from the girl. Oh, is that so? Fine, the girl uncaringly shrugged. I am Mei, by the way. She sat down into the grass, and Yujito barely prevented herself from gaping. The civilian girl just completely ignored her warning. If you don't introduce yourself, I will call you Gur-chan, you know? Since you were growling at the poor wooden dummy. That pulled Yujito out of her reverie. I am Ni Yujito, genin of Kimogakure. She nodded but totally ignored the girl when she patted the patch of grass next to her, signaling Yujito to sit. Yujito just stood a few feet in front of the girl, prepared for a fight. You can call me Mei. I came here because I am interested in you, Mei stated with a hum in her tone, causing Yujito to flinch and almost take a step back due to how intensely Mei's eyes trailed over her body. I see you were trained on what it means to be a kunoichi from an early age, Mei lightly said, a feeling Yujito couldn't quite put her finger on in her tone. Yes, I have trained since I became 6 years old. Yujito nodded. It was not like the entrance age to Kumo Academy was a secret. Mei only snorted derisively at that. I am not talking about that. She shot Yujito a knowing look that made Yujito's breath hitch and her body tense. She took a step back while taking a stance with her sword, preparing to pounce at Mei at any indication of hostility. The girl might look, seem, smell, even feel like a civilian, but Yujito now knew the girl was certainly not just a civilian. I have no idea what you are talking about, Yujito stated, and Mei raised an eyebrow at her. Why are you taking a battle stance, then? She asked with apparent amusement, causing Yujito to scold herself. You really are only a kid, Mei chuckled, making Yujito irritated at being called a kid. But tell me, how long are they raping you? As if a bucket of cold water was poured over Yujito.
Yeah, no idea.
She sputtered, her mind a complete mess, while she tried to make herself appear small as her body uncontrollably shook. That was something she desperately tried to hide, and not even her teammates knew about. Mei just gave the poor girl a pitying look. Female Jinchuriki. I should have expected this, shouldn't I? Mei wistfully lamented. She thought Kumo would treat the girl properly due to Killer B, but apparently not. And here I wanted to just come here, grab some of Nibi's chakra, and be on my merry way. She sighed in irritation. Stop! Mei's firm voice rang through the training ground, stopping the distraught Nibi Jinchuriki in her tracks as she fearfully looked at Mei. I was spat on, stepped on, beaten, starved, cursed, had rocks thrown at me, and the only thing that saved me from being raped is my master. Quite honestly, I thought you would avoid that fate since Killer B is so famous and seen as a protector of the village. Mei tilted her head in a pondering manner, and Yujito could only listen, unable to tear her eyes away from her. I see, it was the war, wasn't it? Yujito flinched. Neither Killer B nor A could watch over you, so the people who didn't like you had easy access and a free hand to do whatever they wanted with you. Typical. If I had to guess, it was Kumo councilmen who loved to abuse you, no? That's why you have to keep your mouth shut or face the consequences. Mei slowly guessed what exactly happened to Yujito. Yujito started shaking again and tightly closed her eyes, only to feel herself being gently hugged, something she never felt before. It didn't take even a second for Mei to feel Yujito melting into the embrace, creating a sour taste in Mei's mood. I am Mei of Kiri, Yujito's eyes shot wide at that. I can protect you and give you a home where you will be appreciated. The question is, do you want to be protected? Mei reached her hand towards the crying Yujito in a silent offer. Rei looked at the sheepish Mei and the quiet, shy-looking, quivering blonde girl she dragged into his dimension. Care to run that by me again, Mei? He asked, blankly blinking at his second apprentice / soon-to-be lover / current pain in the ass. You see, Yujito needed home and I thought, Mei briefly glanced at Rei's face, noticing his unreadable expression, and lowered her head again. So, you basically stole a Jinchuriki from Kumo. Conan pointed with an amused tone. Yujito suddenly found herself staring at the floor while fidgeting. She knew taking Mei's offer is basically treason, which is certain death. She also knew that despite it looking like she was kidnapped, the Kumo Council would just spin their usual bullshit and put the blame on her. Not to kill her, but to gain even more hold of her. She hated them to her core. But she didn't want to inconvenience Mei, one of the very few people who were nice to her. Sure, Killer B was nice to her, and tried to look out for her, but he was always away, fighting on the front lines. B's surrogate brother was also trying to be nice to her, but Yujito knew it was more because of B rather than out of his own volition. She was not that close to either of them, and that's why she accepted Mei's proposal. There was just nobody genuinely waiting for her in Kumo. Hey, Rei wanted a sample of her chakra. Now, here she is. Mei gestured to Yujito, who looked between her and Rei in complete shock. I would say I fulfilled the mission requirement better than anyone. Mei gave Conan a defiant stare. And by doing that you most likely utterly pissed the Reikage off. Please, at least tell me you didn't leave the mark behind. Rei asked hopefully. No. I made sure to mark the entire training ground with the Yozora was here mark. Mei tilted her head confusingly, causing Rei to facepalm. You know what? He drawled tiredly. Fuck the Reikage. Anyway, he turned towards the fearful Yujito. Welcome to our home. He smiled, ruffling the girl's hair, which made her flinch and Conan, and Rei suddenly understood why exactly Mei dragged Yujito back with her. I guess a sudden contact with a man will be a bit too much for her in the following weeks. It will take a bit to get the mental trauma out of her. Rei turned towards Mei. Since you brought in the stray cat, you will feed, bathe, and train her. He told her jokingly, making Conan snicker, while Mei looked as if she just ate a lemon. She didn't consider who would take care of Yujito. She definitely didn't think it would be her. Consider her your pet and your first apprentice. Rei quipped and turned around to leave Mei's room alongside Conan, who was mirthfully snickering at Mei's predicament. The two left and the room descended to complete awkward silence. Am I a bother? Yujito asked unsurely, only for Mei to drop back onto her bed and bounce up and down for a bit with an audible groan. No, Mei answered with a pout. I have no clue how you interpreted that, but if you were a bother, Rei would have thrown you out, no questions asked. That was basically him allowing you to stay here. Mei grew silent only to let out a frustrated yell and started flailing her arms in the air, startling Yujito for a moment. Her frustration finally dropping, Mei calmed down and continued, breathing a bit harder than usual. I am just angry at myself for not considering who would take care of you. I could have pinned you on Conan if I did, Mei sullenly said. So I am a bother. Yujito's sweat dropped, while also feeling a sinking feeling in her stomach as sadness overcame her. Even here nobody wants me. She bit her lower lip. It would have been infinitely better for you. Mei continued a bit miffed at saying that, causing Yujito to stop her self-pitying and snap her gaze back to Mei, who still laid on her bed. Conan trained me, Conan trained Ringo, Conan trained Sun. Ahem, Mei coughed. My second sister Tsu. Only Tsu can match Conan when it comes to the women here, and even that is only when Conan is not using some of her jutsu. Being in Conan's care would give you the best training available. That's why I wanted to pin you on her. Mei explained, and Yujito's heart warmed as her eyes widened at being told Mei thought about what would be best for her. This Conan is she. Conan of Kiri. Yujito asked unsurely. The woman looked around 18 at best, and definitely didn't seem to be somebody who tore Kumo fleet to shreds by herself, brutally killing thousands in the process. Nor did she look like someone whose specialty was drowning people alongside their own castles. Yes, she is the strongest one of us women here. Mei huffed. But I thought you gained your SS rank sooner? Yujito tilted her head. Mei's story about how she decimated the IWA army of 10,000 mercenaries and over 500 ninjas was legendary. Sure, many versions were outright retarded, but still. Mei's fame was a big factor in why Yujito took the offer of protection. And who do you think trained me, duh? Mei rolled her eyes, causing Yujito to avert her eyes in shame, but for the first time since she entered Rei's dimension, a small smile appeared on her lips. Conan can be a bitch sometimes, especially during training. I might want to one-up her to satisfy my vindictive pettiness. Mei acknowledged that very easily, too easily in Yujito's opinion. But I look up to her, you know? She is like a mother I never had to me. Mei quietly added with a nostalgic smile. Yujito didn't know what to do in this emotional situation, and did the only thing she knew would calm her if she was distraught. She unsurely walked towards Mei, dragging herself above her on all four as the girl still laid on her bed. And then Yujito suddenly hugged the surprised Mei, whose arms snaked around Yujito's torso, both enjoying the comforting feeling of their embrace. No wanna be friends, Yu-chan? Mei suddenly said, causing Yujito to frown at her new nickname. Yujito made what she later deemed to be at the same time the best and the worst mistake in her life, she agreed. Good. That means I will have to train you, so I won't be embarrassed by your strength. I wonder if Ringo would like a sparring partner. The poor stray cat had no idea what was in store for her in the future.